And we are live. SoundMinds.
Back at it. This is season 4, episode 2. I mean, where would you rather be? And I get it. There's a supposed football game going on. We ain't worried about that right now. You know what I'm saying? We here to talk to y'all about masters of discipline with 2 phenomenal gentlemen that are coming to grace us with their presence, and not only that, but give us their knowledge and gems in regards to the world that they live in. Those were a whole bunch of bars. You could even put that in the verse. But but you know, for what it's worth, when you speak about discipline and knowledge of self and self-worth and, you know, just self-power, this right here is an episode that you want to be a part of, just based off of the fact of the 2 guests that we have. We have Professor Napo, who has been in the martial arts world for years. He started off, for the most part, with Taekwondo around the age of 2nd grade, you know, around that time, and then went on to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and now is definitely a grand student and master of that. And then we have the Grand Master himself, one of the most profound martial artists, and we're going to get into that as well. He is the founder of the Shokujitsu Ryu, Grandmaster Nathan Ingram. So round of applause to you, gentlemen, and we're going to pass it all so that you guys can introduce yourselves. Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take it away, our brother.
I like the Grandmaster.
So Nathan Ingram, give us a background, a little background about yourself. And I mean, and up until now, yeah.
Okay. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the founder of the DAS Karate Federation, which was founded in 1973, 1974 by myself. I started karate in 1968. This is actually going on my 53rd year in the martial arts. Started teaching Alfred E. Smith projects right across from Chinatown. There in 1973 is when I got my Shodan, my 1st degree black belt, under Hector Martinez. Yes, that's right. Smith projects. Yes. I'm a Smith boy. And I started my career, like I said, not to repeat myself, but I started in 1968. Started in Shotokan Karate, went from Shotokan Karate to Kung Fu, Northern Praying Mantis. Then I went to Goju in 1973. And I studied Jiu-Jitsu with the late Grandmaster Taiwan Aponte. I studied with him for a long time before he passed away, God bless his soul. And I stayed with the Federation, with the DAS Karate Federation. This is now, I think, our 47th year coming up. That's it.
Wow.
No big deal.
Wow. No big deal.
No big deal.
And before we're gonna go to our next guest, my question to you, brother, is what is on your mind today, right now? At this exact moment, before we get into our questions, everything, what is on your mind and your wisdom? What have you always known that you don't think enough people know? Or what is it that you just learned today that you just want to share? What's on your mind?
Now, is this question to me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to be honest with you. Well, I was just sitting here thinking, wow, I remember I didn't do any interviews from 1981 until almost 2004. I refused to do interviews.
What?
Yeah. It's a long story with that. We'll get into it. And it's a story that goes along with that. I feared for my family for something that happened I had stopped a bank robbery in 1981. I think I sent you guys the article. And my family and myself, my life was threatened by the Black Liberation Army. And I feared for my family. So that's a whole nother story. So I instead of putting my family in jeopardy, because I don't know if you guys recall, they were robbing banks during that time, the Black Liberation. And they thought I was Uncle Tom. I was a sellout. So they felt because I was stopping the bank robbery, I was taking from their bread and butter. And I stopped the bank robbery simply because the robber was cursing at the teller, and I knew her. So he had to come through me to get through the door. So that's why that's what I was thinking about. Why I haven't done interviews in so long. And in the past 3 years, it's been crazy on the amount of interviews. And this is really a blessing because this is my homeboys. This is, my buddies, so I feel really comfortable.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we are going to definitely touch on that.
Yes.
Now let's go to our next guest introduction.
Napo here. My name is Ernesto, of course, but if my professor Igor heard me say that, he'd be like, "What? What's your name?" It's a very common thing, or not uncommon at all in Brazilian martial arts. Brazilian jiu-jitsu and capoeira, for you to be given a nickname by your head instructor or head professor is considered a form of endearment and honor. You don't choose it; it's chosen for you. So sometimes it's ironic. Sometimes it's it can be kind of funny. You can have like a really really tall guy that and he'll be called Tiny, or what I mean, something like that. So but yeah, I was given the name Napo, which came from started with Napoleon. I'll give you a little bit of a background on that. So some about I want to say about 4 years ago, I had this nagging shoulder issue on my left side, on my left shoulder, and so it kind of it became such a huge like mental block for me with training. This was like during my purple belt era. So in between like my rounds of sparring, I would often hold my cross-side lapel up here. And in doing that, it created like somewhat of a homemade sling, and it would alleviate the throbbing I would feel when I would otherwise let my arm hang. I felt like this nagging sensation in my shoulder, so I would always hold my lapel here. And my professor started noticing it, and he was like, "You're kind of standing like Napoleon the Emperor, who would apparently, like I looked up some pictures of him, he would stick his hand in between the buttons of his shirt like this." And because at first I was like, wait a minute, from my understanding of him, this dude was a bit of a jerk. I was like, I hope you know what I mean? And he was like, no, it's more so because of how you're standing. And from there went to Napoleão, which is Napoleon in Portuguese. And then from there just went short to Napo. And Napo is pretty much what stuck. And it's something that I accepted. I was honored to be given a nickname, I guess one that sounds cool in a way, it's easy
Definitely
to learn.
better than Napoleon, I tell you that.
For sure. Yeah. So anyway, so Napo was and Napo it is, and that's how I'm introduced. That's how I teach. That's how I learn. That's how I, make connections with people. And I don't know how I'm gonna follow up Nathan's intro right there, but I'll try to step gingerly in your shadow, my friend.
Oh, stop, brother, stop.
I started martial arts when I was a kid. Like I was telling you gentlemen earlier, it's probably the best thing my mother did for me at that time, and I did it probably for the same reasons any little kid did it. You wanted to be Bruce Lee, you wanted to be Daniel LaRusso, you wanted to know what it was like to train with a Mr. Miyagi and so on and so forth. You wanted to feel like, like a little superhero, and so kind of did that. I grew up in the Lower East Side, right on Cherry Street. There was a moment, I think right after third grade, where we moved to my mother's island, Puerto Rico. She kind of went back to see if she could restart her life. And I remember, at that age, you're too young to really know what's going on. I was just upset that I had to leave Taekwondo. Like I took that personal, and yeah, even being on the island, I think at one point she tried to see if there was some sort of martial arts school that, she could sign me up on, but for reasons X, Y, and Z, that just never quite happened. And when we came back to New York, some years later, I think by the time I was starting up 5th or 6th grade, that was like my first inquiry. I was like, Mom, where can we? And I was so upset because it was offered at a community center. George, you probably know where 275 Cherry Street is. There was a community center there where Master Choi, man, I wish we would have kept contact throughout all these years. That's where the Taekwondo classes were taught. and he had moved. So, you know, he was no longer around. He lived in my building too, which is great. He was no longer around. I guess just from there, the distractions of life just kind of got in the way. I went through my sports phases when I was younger, you know, baseball, you know, I played like two.
Was your sports phase, did that come more? Were you more in your sports phase than martial arts?
Nah, like
Or you
I
never
did
put it down?
yeah, like I did because it's what my mother kind of put me in just to kind of keep me busy. And I was in 2 little league teams. Basketball, I played on my own, like just, you know, with the boys and, you know, in the street and, you know, playing at the court. Football, we used to play tackle football on plain grass, stupid things you do as a kid, you know. But yeah, and then like once I hit like my early 20s, like it kind of just faded, you know. I was like, man, martial arts is my thing, you know. That's where I thrived, you know what I mean? And so then as like I became kind of like a little more curious about wrestling, then of course you know, with the intro of, you know, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, I think this was like early 90s, 93, that kind of like re-sparked my interest, you know. And well, not my interest, but
Oh,
it's kind of
that's
like just
back
like,
when it was bloody.
yeah, I remember that was
Yeah.
it was crazy.
They shut it
You know,
back. They shut it down back then.
yeah. It was frowned upon. You know, I was just more mesmerized by, you know, what's up with the dude wearing the pajamas? How is he beating everybody's butt? You know what I mean? Like I was like mesmerized by that. You know, what Hoist Gracie was doing. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, that's, you know, me being like, to me, it's like I felt like he was like, I was a mirror image of him. I was a lanky kid, you know. You know, I was kind of like, I guess, very, very unassuming, you know. And just kind of awkward, and you know, that little puberty phase, you know, through high school, whatever. And I was like, man, what this guy's doing is great, you know. And once I found out that he had a cousin, Henzo Gracie, who was based out of New York, I was like, I gotta find where this is at, you know. And I just kind of kept hunting until I finally found my way at Henzo Gracie Academy in New York. I remember my first.
I just want to highlight that for our listeners. I just want to highlight that pause. Sometimes I want to take a breath at certain moments. He found out this person. He found out there was a person connected to this person. And he said, I am going to find my way to this person.
Yes, I'm going to find him.
And you know how many infinite thoughts are in the brain, and people who he could have talked to said, what? I can't pronounce that person's name. What? That person ain't in New York. What? There's way more thoughts, like predominantly more thoughts of why he should not have done that, and it was impossible. But he said one thought, I'm going to find him. Oh, so one of his relatives in New York, I'm going to find him. Even better. And that's it. He made a decision. Sound minds.
You said this was 90s, right?
This is back in the Yellow Pages days, man.
Yellow Pages days. See, you know, no social media.
And rip out the sheet and call like the 17 numbers that were under there just until you found the right one, you know.
They don't know the struggle.
No, man, they don't know.
I barely know that struggle. I'm
this is before Metro cards, man. This is when you had tokens, you know what I mean? Before Metro card. Anyway, you know, I finally found my way to Henzo Gracie, New York City, and that's where I kind of made my connection with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I was just instantly fascinated with it, you know, and what you can do with your body using, you know, leverage, technique, timing, understanding weight distribution, and, you know, and how you can use gravity, physics, you know, and so on and so forth. And from there, it's just like, you know, yes, man, I reconnected with my martial arts itch, you know, and yeah, so, and this has been ongoing from there.
You know what's crazy? I listening to the both of you brothers speak. There's a certain humility that goes with being a passionate martial artist, and I've noticed that. There's a certain morale and integrity that is constantly kept, no matter what it is that you're doing, right? And it's funny because when you speak about humility and just being humble, right? Professor Napo was talking about the fact that he went, searched, and did all this, and always been one of the most humblest dudes I've ever met in my life. You know what I mean? Or ever known, right? And then you talking about Grandmaster Nathan Ingram, who is a 10th degree red belt, 16-time bare knuckle champion, voted as one of the best martial artists by his peers. So that's like if LeBron James was spoken about by Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, and they said, nah, he's the one, right? And he's a Hall of Fame martial artist. And then when you mix these two brothers and with this, for the most part, the epitome of what this fourth season is for the most part, it is platform creators. These are two brothers that have created platforms for others by teaching others about the arts, but not only that, about themselves. And when you speak about humility and you speak about just being kind of like humble within, these are people that at any given time, your deadliest of boxers that are known to be the deadliest will probably not want to mess with these two gentlemen right here. And here it is. They're taking I did some martial arts. I did this. You know what I'm saying? So I am honored by the fact that both of you here and speak so powerfully, yet without the need to boast about who you are and your accomplishments. And I think that that's something that we constantly, we fight with a lot. A lot of times, a lot of people are like, nah, I want people to know my accolades and so on and so forth. Right. But they always want others to, you know what I mean? And I think the humility and the way just hearing the both of you speak, it's amazing. So thank y'all very much, man. SoundMinds to that.
SoundMinds to that. Can I also follow up and ask, is that a part of your discipline? Being in the martial arts, is that taught to you in a practice? In a part of your discipline in the martial arts, like being humble, carrying yourself this way?
I have to say it's a part of it. I'm the son of a Baptist preacher. I grew up born and raised in church. God bless them. My mom and dad raised me in church. I'm also a musician, so I played in church. So I already had discipline. What I needed to learn was respect for life. I knew that it was necessary to respect, and I knew it was necessary to have discipline, but I had to see it for myself. So during my early years, I was in gangs on Pitt Street, the Royal Javelins, and to be honest with you, it took a bullet to humble me. Because prior to that, when I was training, I started training in 1968. That's when karate was raw. Martial arts was raw. Most people didn't even know what karate was. And you had martial artists walking down the street in their karate uniforms. I did it for years. I did it up until 1980, where I just walked through the street, and I didn't even own shoes in the mid 70s. I walked barefoot 1976 to 1978. It's the truth. It's the truth. Any of the old heads to tell you. And I had to learn that there's a difference in trying to be humble, because you get martial artists now, no knock to them. I think the martial artists of today, it's just different. I'm not going to say it's better. We were better. But I think what the martial artists have to understand today, that it's not enough to say you're humble and to say that you're disciplined or you're speaking with humility. You have to really, you train so hard. And I know I did, and I know my brother Napo did. We trained so hard. You don't want to come out the dojo and act like an idiot. Excuse the expression, or try to boast or brag about anything. Like I said, I didn't do interviews for years, and I was fighting when people were out hanging out, selling drugs, and and getting high on heroin and stuff. And I didn't want to do that, man, because I felt like after I got shot in 1973, it was July 2nd, 1973, on 3rd Street and Avenue C. And it was because of my arrogance. It was
Shout out to the New Eurekan.
Yeah. It's because I thought my martial arts was so good and I was so tough and I had just got my black belt that I was all of that. And the guy was like, you're not all that, Mr. Ingram. You're going to take this bullet. No.
You're not telling us the classic story of, the old saying, all that martial arts can't stop no bullet. And you actually was out there in the streets with your martial arts and had to face that.
Well,
it was like, could he catch a bullet with his teeth?
You know what, brother, when you're training, and I'm going to keep it raw and real with you. When you're training hard, you get that sense of that God, like, oh, nobody can do nothing to me, and you don't want that. You're not trying to portray that, but you do.
Okay.
And I thought I was, and nobody could hang with me with their hands. And when I got shot, it gave me my mother. I was sitting in the hospital, Gouverneur Hospital. This is when they had patients to stay over. Now, I was
Shout out to
laying in.
Gouverneur.
I'm sorry, yeah. And I was laying
Wow.
in the bed in the emergency room, and I heard my mother's voice, and she said to the doctor, "Where did he get it?" And the doctor said, "He got it in the leg. He got it in the back of the leg." And she said, "I wished he would have got it in his head." And my mother's words changed my life. She didn't even know I heard her. There was a curtain separating me from the outside, and I was behind the curtain, and she didn't know it. And she broke down in tears. I didn't realize how much of a hard time I was giving her, because it was almost like I was on a death wish, because I just thought I was tough. And then that's when I started taking my martial arts more seriously. I started getting it. I was already in the bare knuckles, because the whole time I was in the gang, I fought, bare knuckle underground competition for years, from like 1972 to I think 1979. And it was nothing for me to fight 4 or 5 times a month. In California, Texas, Chinatown. I promoted. I don't know if you guys know. I promoted a lot of shows in Chinatown. America's Bare Knuckle Karate Championship. I won Ron Van Cleef stuff. And that kept me off the street, man. And we're getting back to humility. I'm not trying to go all over the place. I'm sorry. I don't get a chance to talk really. So.
This wisdom, kick the wisdom.
This is what we're here for. This ain't a regular podcast. Like little beknownst to you, like there was a greater plan when you turned down all them.
You see that comment?
Like
you see the comment? It said, "Wow, that's deep." Our listeners want to hear that. Yes.
Yeah. I haven't been real comfortable. This social media thing started with me like 2 years ago at the request of my children. I didn't want to be,
I mean, I'll let anyone. We got, Facebook, YouTube. I know a lot of people watching the Super Bowl. We want to say thank y'all for those of you who was chilling with us at the same time. Please spread the word. You getting some genuine, real discipline, not like in the movies. These is cats that like should be movie stars, but they the real life, real deal. But I think any of them, correct me if I'm wrong, my brother Light, my brother Rod, and myself, like we're actually here to not be those journalists that ask you questions like you're under a microscope and you're from another planet. We're here kind of like a cipher, because we come out of the hip-hop tradition. So we look at everybody on our show like a brother and sister. You know what I mean? So we trying to get, I don't think I'm trying to be humble, but I'm not that humble.
That's like Big Unc right there to me, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like right you like a uncle, a big brother. Like I guess I can't say it too humbly. Like we just don't treat people like we let you get a breath of fresh air and really have a conversation on the show. Not under pressure, not feeling like you got to sell our product, not feeling like you weird. Like we love you. We appreciate your story, and we know your story needs to be shared. And even on social media, because of how it's framed, usually you're not going to get to really talk like this. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're here for.
Okay.
That's love.
Any further questions?
Well, we were still on just the humility aspect of it, and you were speaking on how it took getting shot, and that and it really does tie into a lot of life lessons too, that you hear when brothers that are arrogant or not as humble, and that attracts certain trouble. And then once that trouble comes, you realize I don't want that trouble in my life. Let me humble myself.
Yeah. Absolutely. I remember I was listening to Brother Napo speak, and he was talking about the whole UFC thing. And I'm new to the mixed martial arts world, and I didn't know about it until the mid '90s, because we were doing mixed martial arts in the '70s, and people didn't even know. There was no rules when we fought, and there was no gloves when I was fighting. There was no gloves, man. We taped up our wrists, we taped up our knuckles, we taped our feet, and we fought. I fought Ralph Mitchell like that. I fought Victor Erwin Sanchez like that, Kahiji Chipentera like that. I fought the list goes on. Floyd Turpin, and that's the way we fought. So one day, true story, man. I'm working in a club in 1996. It was on 9th Street and Avenue, off of 6th Avenue. It was called Mary Lou's. And I'm working as a bouncer, and all of a sudden, I see a woman come running up the step. A man is behind her, and the woman lets out a scream. The guy behind the guy that touched this woman happened to be a mixed martial arts fighter. When I tell you he put a whooping on this guy, the last time I had seen a whooping like that was when I was in the ring. And I said to his friend, I said, wait a second, what is this guy? What is he trained? And he said, oh, he does the mixed martial arts. I said, and I didn't know the term mixed martial arts. You just did martial arts. It was mixed martial arts that came in the 90s. Now fast forward, go back. I had never heard of that. And when I tell you this guy did a thing on this, so then on this other gentleman. So after that, I started saying, okay, I want to follow this stuff. And I started following. I heard about the Frank Shamrocks and all that, all these guys. And I wanted to fight. I said, okay, I'm older now, much older. You talk about 20, 30 years later, but I want to fight. And it never happened. But, I see Brother Napo and I'm looking at him and I'm saying, wow, I'm hearing his story and his history of how he came about and everything. And it's fascinating because it goes in generations. It goes in generations.
Yes.
But you know what? Without humility, without respect and not being humble, you won't live to see it, especially coming in the area that we could, you know what I mean? You won't live to see your legacy. You have to, so martial arts for me, it worked in that sense, where it helped me with my humility and along with the bullet and me staying in the dojo and training.
I think that's a good segue because if you bear Napo,
I wanted to
let's
Napo
get Professor Napo
follow up on
absolutely.
the humility aspect.
Right. So he's saying he was doing this from 72 to 79 before there was really MMA, and then that kind of leads into your era, right?
Well, yeah, I was still a baby, but he's right. Before the Ultimate Fighting Championship, even back in the days in Brazil, based on the research I've done, it was called Vale Tudo, and which means everything goes. And these were done. This was done like old school style in Brazil. And you could look up videos of this. And the Gracie families have history. Like back then they would settle things on the beach. You know what I mean? Like right up on the sand and so on and so forth. So anyway, once again, I'm gonna try to follow up on Master Nathan's storyline, which is incredibly amazing and inspirational. I'm just excited to say, man, I'm from this guy's same hood, and I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? So respects to the Low East Side, man. A lot of people know about the Low East Side, the 6th borough, man. As far as so just so I understand, the question was regarding what my perception is of humility. If
is it a discipline? Is it a part of did that come from the martial arts?
Okay.
Is it a practice in the martial arts of why you're so humble, or is it that's you and things of that nature?
I'll be right off the back and say I would rather people feel that I'm like that. I feel like it's very, I'll be okay. In transparency, it's always been a little uncomfortable, difficult for me to speak about about myself in that aspect. So I'm gonna do my best here. So bear with me. I think martial arts, and again, this is just my perception based on my experience with it. I think it accentuates or brings out what you already have within. If I think character and conduct begin at home. And of course, we can be influenced by people, our surroundings, the atmospheres, and so on and so forth. Absolutely. But you know, just like, and I'm sure you know, Master Nathan would agree that, you know, there's also been plenty of people that train martial arts that probably shouldn't train martial arts because it just brought out the jerk that they were that they already had within. You know what I mean? And they use it for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely.
You know,
There you go.
and
Absolutely.
I've had plenty of firsthand experiences with people like that, and it really is, it really is, um, it's rough, you know, because of my admiration and respect for the arts. You know what I mean? For the arts in general. Um, you know, and what they mean and represent with the right intention. You know, it's, I guess it's no different than, like, you know, I don't know, if somebody, maybe if somebody hits the lotto, you know, and you know, and you end up with this lump sum of money on top. Now it's like, you know, maybe it'll bring out, you know, who you are already within. If you're already a good-hearted person, a giving person, maybe you'll want to help out as many people as possible. If you're already, you know, a douchebag within, it's probably gonna, you know, give you a stage with a megaphone to exude the douchebaggery you already carry within. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So I
mm.
think in martial arts, you know, kind of it'll just highlight who the individual is, already inside. And of course, I also think on that same token, there's perhaps a lot of people that are kind of like in limbo and they're trying to find themselves. And martial arts can be a vessel, you know, or a channel for them to find themselves, you know, to see what kind of foundation they land on and build from, you know. Um,
I just want
I
to
don't know.
say I appreciate your honesty in that question because that was like a very unbiased, clear question and answer, and we could also tell in answering that in a humble way that you actually have chosen that path and incorporated humility into your practice. And while you're answering this, I just want to ask you a deeper question on that.
Yes, sir.
Um, do you feel that the humility included by such as yourself and Master Nathan does empower your practice, or do you feel like it doesn't really matter in terms of the practice? It just makes you a better person, or would you be one of those people who says, you know what, there's like a secret chamber in the martial arts where actually, if you're humble, it actually unlocks this magical thing, or maybe it's not that deep.
That is a deep question. Wow. Um, you know, I think, okay, let me just go think about training in general. And first of all, jujitsu is by far the most difficult thing I've ever done physically. You know, um, absolutely by far. I've always been pretty, you know, pretty athletic from youth. You know, I've always been very physical in that aspect. You know, as it's been kind of like an outlet of expression. But there was, you know, jujitsu in and of itself. Um, the lessons taught, um, uh, you know, when you're observing techniques, when you're trying to perform things, when you're live sparring, all that is humbling and sobering alone, you know. And I think it's just like a daily reminder, you know, and I like that daily reminder of realizing or acknowledging and accepting that I'm forever going to be a student of that, you know what I mean. And no matter how far I go, um, in this journey, you know, I'll always be learning. You know, I'll always be learning, and I like that. I like being there. I like learning from my head professor Igor and my other fellow professors that I train with. I like being alongside my fellow training partners, and even when I'm honored to teach, you know, and I see the eyes on me, um, I sometimes see myself in all of my training partners, or you know, those that are attending the class that I'm teaching that day. And it kind of it motivates me that much more to pay that much more attention to detail, you know. And it reminds me of how much more of a student I am day in and day out, you know, of the art. So I think in those, I don't know, in those gems, there's always, you know, if you allow it, of course, if you embrace it in such a way, there's, I guess, humility, you know, in that, you know, alone. I guess, how do you know, if you kind of, if you approach it in that aspect, you know, not with that sense of invincibility, like, you know, I'm top notch, or hey, I made it to the black belt status or something. No, man, it's like, you know, I don't know. I've always, you know, I think even if I didn't try, I wouldn't, you know, it's like I always find myself kind of not so much literally, but figuratively looking in the mirror, you know? And I remember just being always a slow learner, you know, and I became just very obsessed. You know, I'm a heavy thinker, like the wheels in my brain are always turning. And I remember becoming just very kind of like obsessed with details and understanding, wait, what is my missing that I'm not able to perform this technique the way it's being taught? You know, like there has to be something here. There's something hidden, you know. And I mean, there's some people, no knock to them, they're just freaks of talent, man. They grab something and they absorb it like a sponge, and they excel. That was never me, you know what I mean? Like, I was always a slow learner, so, and I'm okay with that, you know. But yeah, I remember being so like obsessed about that and wanting to understand, you know, like why couldn't I do it? It's like, oh, okay, I didn't put my foot here, or I didn't post the way I was supposed. Oh, I didn't extend my body enough. You know, when I start understanding the mechanics of the philosophy of things, you know, I always say, like, you have to first have an understanding here before
I
you can do
love
something
those
physically.
aha moments. There's
Yeah,
nothing like that.
yes.
in the mental, the just the mindset, right? The mindset of it, of staying in a student mindset, you know, with that type of seeing the philosophy of it is what's
Yeah.
making you stay in a student mindset, because
Yes,
there's
sir.
still so much to learn. And no matter what your titles and the accolades that you get and accomplish, it does that physically, yeah, that physically counts, but mentally staying in the student mindset is what keeps the humility high, you know. And that also explains what happened before we went live, where I was asking, what are you a master of? When I was typing, I'm gonna put in master of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and it was like student, but wait, but you're a master of, I'm still a student though. Like, it's that that humbleness was still there, right? That explains that whole conversation right there, what you just broke down, you know. Oh man.
That's deep, man. And it speaks. I think ultimately what it speaks about is the character of the person. You don't need to be in a pissing contest all the time. You know what I'm saying? Um, so Grandmaster Nate Sensei, I got to ask you a question. You said,
Before you ask
Like,
me the question, I want
yeah,
to say something. I want to tap into something brother Napo said. He said something really deep, and I was going to touch on that, but he said it even more, much more profound than I could have ever said. About martial artists, that what a lot of martial artists suffer with is the fact that they can't separate um, being humble and being arrogant. They don't know that these are two totally different things. And most guys, and he said, and I totally agreed. I was nodding my head, going, "I'm glad he hit that point." When they get into martial arts, they become more arrogant, and that's why I was kind of not trying to go there to disrespect anybody, because they'll, oh, Nathan thinks he's all that because he's got some arrogance. No, man, it's not. I think I'm all of that. It's that you don't train like we do, and to become more arrogant. It's the total opposite. And this is what I was saying before, when you're in the dojo and you're sweating hard and you're training and you're sparring, and you're learning the different counts and rhythm, and you're doing this for a reason, and it's not to become more arrogant. If anything, you don't want to have to use your martial arts. But it seems like it's the opposite with other guys that's training, and they're wearing these black belts, and they, first of all, nobody's afraid of them because you're a black belt. If anything, it puts you more in harm's way, because now they say, okay, this guy could, I'm gonna shoot him because I'm not gonna stand and let him kick my head off. So I learned that if you carry yourself with respect, because a lot of dojos don't teach it. I'm gonna tell you, now you have babysitting dojos. You have more dojos that got on 100 colored uniforms, and the instructors using the N-word during class, and they're cursing, acting a fool. How are you going to learn respect from a man that's not respecting himself? Now, this is not all dojos. This is not all dojo. So when he said that, I was so glad he touched on that, because I said, okay, let him stick his neck out there. I don't want to do it.
I think also what you
I got to do
said,
something to follow up, Master Nathan. You know what I mean? I got to do something.
what you also just said too, alley oops to a question in the chat by Carlos. It said back in the day, martial arts was huge. Today, it doesn't seem the same. Do you feel the arts are fading away, transforming into something else, or is there a new resurgence of it?
Can I answer that?
Yes.
I don't think it's fading away. I just think it's taking a turn in a different direction.
There you go.
I'm not so much pleased with the direction that it's going. I like UFC. I like this, it's entertaining to me. I don't call it, in my opinion, you can't call boxing, wrestling, and a little bit of jiu-jitsu, a little bit of karate mixed martial arts. That's, if you're going to call it mixed martial arts, it has to be mixed with other martial arts, not they should call it mixed fighting. There's a difference. And what happens is, a lot of these guys, they train in these and I call it renegade gyms, and there's no structure. There's nobody disciplining them. They're talking out loud. They're doing whatever they want. When I was coming up, the martial arts was a lot more traditional. You came in, you gave courtesy to the instructor. You went down to your Zen and your meditation. Everything was structured. So, and when you're structuring something, you're getting discipline. You understand? As opposed to when you just come in and you put your headphones on, you can't hear anybody yelling instructions to you. You're doing what you want. You're chewing gum. You're looking at the women and all this kind of stuff. This is not martial arts. This is, and I just think that, I don't think it's fading. I think it's just taking a turn in a different direction. I don't like the direction. That's why I try to stay in my dojo and train my children and my adults the way I do. I want to keep the tradition. Tradition doesn't mean the style you study. Tradition just means keep the Bushido code: respect, honor, humility. These things that's what martial arts was built on the principle of. Because every martial arts style has
Bushido code comes from the samurai code.
Yes, it comes deep. It comes from the background of the Bushido code. It comes from technically from the Shaolin on into Okinawa, from Okinawa into Japan, and it just means honor, respect. Okay, people get so caught up in the I don't want to go too far into history because you'll be here all day with that. But people get so caught up in the physical aspects of it, they forget that there's a whole lot more. And we keep touching on humility, discipline, respect, honor. This is true martial art. That's what it's all about. You understand? Longevity. Not coming in the dojo just acting a fool and acting any old kind of way you want. And I don't like what I'm seeing in the martial arts world today. I mean, some people like it. I'd rather not. I like, when I'm on Facebook, I always try to encourage people to train hard, but keep your mouth quiet. Discipline, respect. I'm always talking to the many instructors about that, because we're the ones that the kids are looking up to, that the people are looking up to. And if we're acting a fool, who can we discipline if we're acting like fools? Who can we teach discipline to? I'm sorry, I went all over space.
I respect the passion. I was always nervous about that. Like, sometimes I get lost in my words and I start to kind of go on and on. But I see brother Nathan is riding the same wave. So I feel you. The samurai spirit. I get it. In response to Carlos, I think we still respond to Carlos' question, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Shouts to Carlos, by the way. Looked up to him too when we were growing up, and off there, Cherry and Rutgers and stuff like that. Him and all his brothers. Yeah, I think. I mean, I was, by those, I guess, that know me closest, you know, I mean, my father would used to tell me this often. Is like, you know, you have an old soul. And you know, he used to tell me that like back when I was too young to really understand what he was telling me, you know. And so much like, you know, Master Nathan was just saying, I have that traditional, I guess, martial arts appreciation, you know, embedded within, you know, and I don't want to change that. And I get it, you know, with the evolution of the world, advancement of technology, like when I made reference earlier to the, you know, to the 9X yellow pages, like, you know, now it's like everything is at the click of a finger. In another few years, these devices we hold in our hand are gonna make us bacon, egg, and cheese in the morning. You know what I mean? So I get it. It's part of evolution. So you, in some cases, you know, you do evolve with it. I think there was a point in time where, and again, you know, this is based my perception or opinion that I share, you know, gingerly, respectfully, no less, where, you know, martial artists were very, I guess, few in comparison to your, you know, to your baseball player, your basketball player, your, you know, and so on and so forth.
No, that's
so
fact.
we kind of stood out on our own in that aspect, or maybe even consider, like, you know, just kind of strange or special. I think with you know, then along came, you know, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, when these things were blowing up on VHS tapes, you know. That's another throwback, VHS tapes, when you have VCRs and stuff. And you know, from there, I think it was right around the early 2000s when the Ultimate Fighting Championship, because it was getting so much heat from, I think, I didn't even know where it was legal. It was only legal in some limited states. They went and went off on this kind of like a Hail Mary, and decided to do a reality show, The Ultimate Fighter. It was back then, I think it was on Spike TV.
Yep.
That just kind of like reignited the spark to martial arts, which is great, you know, because I'm a martial artist. I'm like, I think that's great that here you got people that come in from judo backgrounds, you know, Greco-Roman wrestling, freestyle wrestling backgrounds, karate backgrounds, you know, boxing backgrounds. That's pretty cool that, you know, you're giving them a stage to display their art, you know, and represent their art. But then what happens is, you know, now you combine that with the evolution of the world, and now you start combining with evolution of technology, and then you get like everybody, you know, just wanting to be a fighter and what comes with it. You know what I mean? The fame, the notoriety. You know what I mean? The badass aura, so on and so forth. You know, and that's what I think, when that conflict really just started to come in, and I remember feeling, I was very conflicted about it. I was like, damn, you know, this is. Man, now you got to deal with these people, you know, that, again, going back to the people that train martial arts that probably shouldn't train martial arts, because, you know, it can help some people, but some people, it's like that ship sailed a long time ago, man. You know, you can't do much more for certain individuals, and this is just gonna be kerosene to their flame, and, you know, you just got to hope that one day they'll have a wake up call, you know, whatever that may be, you know.
Oh yeah,
And
no, I get it. I definitely get it now, and I thank Carlos for this question, because
Yeah, great question.
he just basically let us know, shine the light that, just like in hip hop. Hold up, y'all ready for this? Just like in hip hop, y'all like the conscious hip hop artists. You feel me? Like, y'all stuck to the core purpose of what, you know, karate, kung fu, martial arts, just what it stands for, the core of it. And people that stick to the core of hip hop, that's not mainstream. So what became mainstream, like you said, is to be a fighter. You know, that became mainstream, which lost the core of, you know, martial arts. You know, and the people that hold on to the core, such as brothers like yourself, you are y'all are the conscious artists, you know, the underground, you know, but still holds the, you know, the foundation that is what keeps it going. This is why we still have it going, because you still hold on to the foundation. If it wasn't for, you know, brothers such as yourself, and like you say, conscious artists, we wouldn't even have a moment to take a break from the mainstream and go get the real, when we need it, and when we dive deeper, so
I'm glad you
That's
said
deep.
that word,
The
the real.
parallels deep.
yeah, the
Yeah,
real.
The real.
and
Because
it's
like
funny because when they were talking, I seen that parallel too. Where I was
Right.
like, it's so funny the essence of what something is created for usually gets lost in the dollar signs in which it could create for others.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? And which is disgustingly crazy that it happens in so many branches of life that there's not the purity of certain things. It just kind of becomes the cartoon layout of somebody else's thought processes of how they could put money in their pockets. You know what I mean? So which is insane. And with that being said too, Grandmaster Nathan, you said something that stuck with me because of something that you were a part of, a major part of. You were a part of a movie that came out in 1979. It came out, Deadly Art of Survival. It was a movie. So everybody in the Lower East Side that knew about martial arts and knew about so the brother Nathan Ingram was our Bruce Lee. That was our Superman. You know what I mean? And then this movie came out. And ironic enough, you spoke about how when you got shot on the Ave, and while you was in the hospital, you overheard your mother say, "Damn, I wish that bullet would have caught him in the head." That was kind of portrayed in the movie as well. Was that based off of real life?
A lot of the movies was based off of real life. I'd say about 70% of it. The movie actually is a horrible movie, but I'm not going to kid you. It's a horrible movie. I had the opportunity to do it, and thank God. I'm not being ungrateful, but I thank God for it. It had a lot of stuff happened in real life. A lot of it was fabricated. A lot of it, the producer, the director Charlie Ahern, who wind up making the movie Wild Style, which was like the biggest hip hop movie during the 80s, along with Beat Street.
Wow.
Not to cut you off, brother Nate. Please forgive me. Wild
Okay.
Style also was shot in the Lower East Side. The last
It was
scene
shot.
was shot in the Lower East
let
Side of
them
Amphitheater.
know.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about Lower East
No.
Side, y'all.
Actually,
The Lower East Side, man.
the
People
star
get
of Wild Style, Lee Quinones, was one of my first students in 1973.
What?
Yeah, he was my first student.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yo,
yeah,
Lee, one of the greatest graffiti artists,
yeah.
transmuted some of the martial arts given to him into the
Hey,
style of
into
the
yeah.
SoundMinds
This
podcast
is the Matrix
exclusive.
right here, man. It's like the Matrix.
But hold on.
Exclusive. What?
You know what's crazy? So
What's that?
we're gonna talk about I'm gonna let you speak, but there is more of a connection, a Matrix style connection that I'm gonna get into that I don't even know if you even thought about before, that I just want to put out there and put on the table. So I'm gonna let you speak, but I think it gets deeper than all that. But go ahead, brother.
So Lee Quinones and his sister Nellie, God bless the dead, she passed away, were two of my first students in 1973. They joined my school in November of 1973. He went on, and the director, Charlie Ahern, that made my movie, and then he was saying he wanted to make a hip hop movie. Did I ever hear of Lee? And I said, did I ever hear of Lee? I said, he's my student. And I introduced him to Lee. And I was in the movie too. I didn't want to be in the movie because I hated acting. I did the Deadly Art of Survival, contrary to what people think, that I went out there and I tried to promote myself. That's not what happened. My students wanted a movie done on my life. So they were responsible for getting Charlie Ahern to do it. Had it been left up to me, I wouldn't have never did it. Anyway, fast forward, when we actually did the movie, The Deadly Art of Survival, it was no script. We had no script. We improvised the whole movie. We just ad-libbed the whole movie. Even the fight scenes we did right there, spontaneously. So spontaneous, right there. So the movie, it was a horrible movie, even though it's a classic. It was horrible. I don't think I
It's
never
a
watched
hood
the whole
classic.
thing.
They call them hood classic. It's a hood classic.
Ghetto
It was
classic.
the wild style. It
Yeah.
made wild style possible.
That's
Let-
crazy.
let's give the viewers a look at the trailer. 30-second look at just the trailer of this movie.
This is history right here, man.
History. History right there, man. What, brother, the size you were in that movie, the size you were to the size you are now. Can you please give us the breakdown of, because even just looking back at the movie, I watched the whole movie today. And
God, Jesus. Ugh.
yeah, I watched the whole thing.
Don't tell him. And you're still not asleep.
So, but everybody were wearing skinny jeans, tight shirts, and abs ripped, it, and no more than 130 pounds. So how did you grow to the size you are now? And being in martial arts where you do certain moves that you do have to have certain limberness, where size can compromise that. So break that down.
What happened was I wanted to transition from bare knuckle fighting to full contact, because if you remember, full contact with PKA, Bill Wallace, Joe Louis, these guys, they didn't become popular until 1977, 78. That's when the gloves came out, the plastic gloves and the plastic footgear. So everybody was saying, hey, why don't you give it a shot? And I said, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. And my instructor advised me, said, listen, you're going to go all these rounds when bare knuckle, you went, you didn't fight the same amount of rounds and things like this. So he said, you may want to put on some weight. And I was already muscular, when I was younger. And I wasn't no big, I'm still not big, but I was thinner. I might have been when I made that movie, I was about 165. And then I blew up. And I was fighting, what was the guy's name? Floyd Turpin. And I went up to 190. And then I went up again, like 205. Then I went up again to like 220. And my last fight with Gahiji Pantera, my last kickboxing fight, I think I was about 220 at the time. And I just kept training and it just never left, so... Yeah, I don't even know what I haven't weighed myself in like 4 to 5 years. I have no clue what I weigh right
now. A requested question from my son. What's your max?
Max on what?
Max bench.
Oh, I don't really bench. Maybe I don't know. I don't lift heavy.
We need to know, how did you blow up? Those are crazy numbers. 160, 190, 200, 220.
Even back then when you were getting up there.
Wheaties, what kind of yoga? I think that's
like
why.
What kind of weight were you pumping at that time to get up?
At that time, I never lift heavy. I might have maxed 315 or
315. Okay.
365 maybe.
That's heavy.
No, not really. Not some guys. I know I had a cousin that was bench pressing 500 pounds. Yeah, that's not heavy.
I'm trying to deadlift that when I do weightlifts.
But see, what a lot of people don't know, I was doing 2,000 push-ups a day. I have videos of it. You can look on YouTube. I got videos of me doing knuckle push-ups and
starting to make sense now.
And I was I still 4 or 5 days a week. I do maybe a couple of thousand push-ups and dips and things. And I don't lift a lot of weights. I used to lift more, but lately there's no gyms open. So I just train here at home. I just got a little bench press, little dumbbells, and my push-ups and my crunchies and my stretching, and I'm good.
we depressing you on this because Raz, shout out to Raz's son is actually a wrestling champion. You know, he's just out in the high school age right now, and he's been working very hard. Even as JV, they was putting him up against the varsities. You know what I mean? Right. So like this is the type of advice that we trying to keep up with you. Like we younger than you, but you look healthier than all of us. You know what I'm saying?
I'm 64 years old.
That's crazy.
I'm 64 years old. My battery's going low.
SoundMinds to that.
Give me 1 second. My battery's going low. I got to get my grandson to
okay, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Napo.
Professor Napo.
Follow up on the
where we going? I feel like we just traveled around the world. He took us to Napo, Brazil. Rod is your international talker.
Follow up on the discipline that it takes, you know, out of all these years to knowing, starting so young, working out, to continuing to the age you are now, you know, to continuing to just work out, to stay in shape, just that mental discipline there, and mental and physical discipline.
Yeah, you know, much like I said earlier, you know, I think from a young age I was always kind of physically active, you know. Always kind of just doing something physically. You know, the irony in my physicality throughout the years is that, and this may seem crazy because sometimes when people have asked me and I kind of answer, they kind of look at me a little weird, is that I'm not competitive by nature, you know. I'm not, and that's the crazy thing, you know. I mean, to me, I guess it's not really crazy, but to others it seems crazy because even in sport jiu-jitsu, you know, like I compete in jiu-jitsu. The reason why I compete, you know, and again, you know, everyone's journey, you know, is distinctive to the individual, you know, as I often say, you know, there's people that compete because they like that adrenaline rush, you know, there's people that compete because, you know, they like the high of winning, you know, or they, you know, for what X, Y, and Z reasons. I compete, you know, because through competition or through jiu-jitsu, it allows me a very raw, intricate, and personal opportunity to face my anxieties and insecurities, you know? And
talk to him.
Yeah. You don't want to get me going because then we'll get to but yeah, it you know, like from a very young age, you know, I've wrestled with anxieties, you know, and back when, like I said, from when I was too young to really discern and understand what the heck was, you know, what the heck that meant or what was going on. I just thought there was just something, you know, different or odd about me, you know, and because of course, you know, if it still is a challenge now, it's even much more challenging when you're a kid. The how easy it is to compare yourself to others, you know. You know, why is it I don't handle things, you know, the way he does? Why is I can't do something the way she does, you know, and so on and so forth. So, you know, I've wrestled with anxiety and anxieties for years, and with jiu-jitsu, it's a very, like I said, it's a very personal, you know, even spiritual in that aspect where it kind of, and it's a repetitive process, you know, because it's not like it just rips out my anxieties and that one shot and then that's it, it's done. You know, it's like, no, I face these things every day because, you know, my greatest or first opposition of the day is always who I see in the mirror, you know, and you know, you obviously, you know, you have to come face to face with your imperfections, you know, with the things you want to be better at, you know, whether it's balancing out your character, maybe patience, you know, or me, like I've never been impressed with my emotional strength. You know, when something overwhelms me, you know, I've always kind of tend to quickly hibernate, you know, withdraw, pull back a little bit, just because, you know, I find it not easier, but maybe less difficult to try to work something out on my own as opposed to kind of being around people, because I just never really wanted to deal with, hey, are you okay? Hey, what's going on? You know, you seem off, you know, something wrong. And I didn't know how to handle that, you know, and that was all contributed to my anxiety. You know, rewinding again, before I get lost with jiu-jitsu and competition, sport jiu-jitsu, it really allows me to face that, you know. And sometimes it's almost like I almost dread the lead up to a competition, you know, and you know, I enjoy the process, like the metamorphosis, especially when I have to do weight management, you know, because I bring my weight down to, you know, because we compete in weight divisions, you know. And so, you know, you have to tweak, you know, your diets, you know, you have to stay on my water. You know, my rest is important. Training is important, but recovery is just is even more important, especially as you get older. You know, like I'm 42, you know, and my joints and ligaments don't recover like when they were 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, you know. So as part of evolution, I have to evolve with that, you know. And so I appreciate that, like a whole science aspect of it, but that knock on my heart, you know, as I'm getting closer and closer to that, you know, it's a very personal, a very raw thing, you know, when I'm there the day of, and you know, you're in the zone. I'm kind of just like, I'm very quiet, you know, and there's like a whirlwind. Like outside, I may look as cool as a cucumber, but there's a freaking typhoon going on in here, you know, and it's my anxieties because I know I'm ready to face them, you know, head on, win or lose, win or lose. Yeah.
I like that comment that Brian just posted up in the chat. You know, he said it's funny
I
how
missed it.
physical conditioning tends to relate to mental health. And I think what you're
Yes.
saying, actually, I'm gonna be real. I know what you're saying is so
Facts. Talk to
vitally
'em.
important right now, because right now in COVID, a lot of people are home. And something that y'all both mentioned that I really appreciate is y'all talking about your journey from being young, from having arrogant moments, from having anxiety moments to this growth right now. Well, a lot of people that we work with, just like you, in the schools and through the internet, however we could reach them, is in those young man, young women phases, right? And what you're saying is vital to them because we know this, we've been through, okay, I got to show up to this competition. I got to show up to this fight. There's something physically that's going to happen where it's a certain amount of thinking in my head, but it's a certain amount where it doesn't matter because I'm going to be physically tested. And I don't just mean like sometimes you physically tested with their hands, but sometimes you just physically tested like on the scale or physically tested on people get to look at your physique or the way you're moving and criticize you, and you signed up for that. Even in rap battles, right? People are physically, even if it's your mind and what you say, they're physically looking at you and what you're wearing and all that. So I think we have to have a lot of empathy, but discipline, you know, like Light Rod, everybody on this call, we believe empathy isn't just like feeling sorry for somebody. You know what I mean? Empathy, like, oh, you need discipline. You need an elder to like challenge you to do things, because if you don't physically get in these situations, then you don't know what you can do. It doesn't matter what I as a teacher or elder say. You are greater than you know. Once you get in these physical situations, you will actually find a power that you couldn't know when you was thinking of your anxieties, right?
I echo every bit of your sentiment, every bit of that sentiment. It's like, and it's, and like I said, it's a very personal, like very raw thing. You know, it's like it's a direct line between you and that, and you know, and that it's like I said, and you know, and win or lose in competition, whatever it may be, afterwards, the feeling that I'm left with is truly priceless. It's one of both relief and release. You know, and it truly is priceless. As cliche as that saying may be, I really can't describe it any other way. You know, I think that there's a sense of truth and vulnerability. You know, and if I can continually learn to accept that and choose that, man, that just keeps me a student of the game. You know, and that's what I want to be. You know.
And I think also, man, well, first and foremost, man, thank you for sharing that with us. You know what I'm saying? Because this, you know, I know you, brother, since damn near Pampers. You know what I'm saying? Like we met each other since junior high, and me knowing you personally, like, you know what I mean, knowing that despite whatever anxieties you were going through and despite all that, I think that comes with also your heart. You know what I'm saying? You always been a great-hearted person. We're always putting somebody else before your own. And a lot of times when people do that, you tend to create a blockage of some sort where it's just kind of like, okay, cool, let me set everybody else up for the better. But when it comes to me, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? Like let somebody else. And then you have the vindictive vultures who have no problems kind of like living off of others who have good energy. You know what I'm saying? And they're constantly like, yo, how can I keep on reaching into this pot and keep on taking from this person's energy of positivity just for my own greedy needs? You know what I'm saying?
Energy vampires. Energy
There you go.
vampires.
Yeah, man. So shout out to you, man, for showing that, man, because it's a disgusting it's a disgusting way of life in which we all have to deal with. And once again, speaking to you, brothers, about the purity of the culture of martial arts, speaking to you about the purity of hip hop's culture and so on and so forth. When you stay humble to the core, and when you stay humble to the true mission, you don't get the notoriety that somebody else who isn't as much as they should. You know what I mean? So shout out to you, brother. And I think thank you for sharing that. Thank you for, I salute you for being a straight up a man. You know what I mean? That's a master of discipline within itself. And a lot of dudes are sitting there like, yo, I can't speak on my emotions. I can't speak on anxiety because it makes me look weak. You know what I'm saying? Like, so and I'm not going to put you in no type of position, but straight off the back, I know that anybody act up in a certain way, it'll take you a minute to get pushed over, but I'm pretty sure you'll punch them in the mouth if you have to. You know what I mean? And that's the, you know what I mean? And that's the balance of it. It's like, yo, I'm cool.
I'm glad you said that, because I got one question that this is my main question for the episode. So like just alley-oop me on this one. Okay, so you got the concept of the others and the real ones, so-called, like those, the fakers and the real ones, or the outsiders in the inner circle, right? And then you also got the concept of the Bushido and the tradition versus people just taking things that's a trend and getting to run with it, not understanding what came before and how to keep the legacy, right? So it's like us versus them, and it's like tradition versus watering it down, right? We see this in hip hop, we see this in martial arts and everything. But I think there's a line that's intergenerational where it's not like old versus young. So I'm gonna give one example of others versus them and see what y'all think about it. And then I'm gonna ask you about tradition versus watering down tradition. Okay. I think of Eminem in hip hop. Just tell me if you're not familiar with Eminem.
No,
All right, so we all know who Eminem is.
Right.
We all familiar with Eminem. So Eminem, a lot of people by his outward appearance and by him being a white boy from Detroit, and actually people didn't even know he was Detroit from how he looked. I had friends who, when they first heard the cassette, and I was like, "Oh yeah, he's white." They was like, "Nah, he ain't white, son. You bugging, right?" So he was considered like someone who wasn't from black culture, right? He wasn't raised in a black household, but he learned and respected the traditions and the culture. And we all respect him as one of the greats of the culture to this day, right? So in that sense, I might look at both of y'all as my elders, knowing that there's many in the Asian community that have passed on these arts, even before it was Brazilian jiu-jitsu, when it was pre-jiu-jitsu and when it was pre-Shotokan, right? And they seeing a Latino brother, they seeing a black man, and they saying, okay, well, is he Japanese? Is he Chinese? Is he Korean, Taiwanese, so forth? But I feel like they would think that you have honored the culture and the roots and carried on the tradition in the same way that we might look at Eminem and say, okay, he wasn't born into it, or what we look like would be the origins of this culture, but he gets it. So first of all, do y'all feel like that comparison is duly noted? Do you feel like it is a matter of respecting the cultural and ethnic origins where it comes from, but also that others can embrace it if they honor the legacy?
I'm gonna let Master Nathan open that one up.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It depends on who you talk to. Everybody have their different opinion on how they feel about how you treat a certain. Me being, I think, fortunate to have a school in Chinatown, it taught me a lot. I wanted to pay homage to the community. I wanted to bridge gaps between communities. I wanted to be respectful in how I was teaching, honorable, because I knew that I was walking a thin line. I'm a black man in Chinatown teaching martial arts, where people feel that's the origin of martial arts, the Asian culture. Um, so I've had people come in and see that I was black, and they took their kids and walked right back out because they were expecting an Asian man. Not knowing that my background and how long I've been teaching, and in order to be black and have a school in Chinatown, you just couldn't do it. So I'm to me, it depends on who you talk to. Everybody has a different opinion. You know, I've had Asian grab and embrace me and say, you know, thank you, because you're doing a fine job with our kids. And then I've had them say, you know, what is this? How quiet? That's a curse in Chinese. Teaching in Chinatown, Japanese art, karate. So I think it depends on who you talk to. I think that as far as I'm concerned, there's no such thing, and I know this is going a little away from the question, but I want to say, I've been wanting to say this. There's no such thing as fake martial arts. There's such thing as fake people. Okay? Because anything that works, to me, in my opinion, has some good. You can't tell me if I get into a fight in the street, an altercation in the street, and I do what I had to do to defend myself and I hurt him, oh, because it wasn't traditional, you're fake. Excuse me? No, I think, and it goes back to the whole Bushido and respect and honor. So I think, and as far as the people that I know in my surroundings, and mainly paying homage to the Asian people, because I've taught so many of them, I think that they understand, you know, and know that I'm trying to uphold the martial arts. You know, to me, it's not about color. It's about just keeping the integrity of martial arts, you know, keeping the honor and things. I have to, and once again, I don't want to hop on this whole black man's thing, but
You the
I
Chinese
have to
people
be that.
Eminem?
I'm sorry, say it again.
You the Chinese people Eminem.
But I have to walk a straight line. Not be. I mean, I don't have to, but I do, because remember, I'm bridging the gap. Guys like you know, they looking at me and they're saying, okay, you know, well, he's not a drug dealer. He's not. He's not going after every woman that walks down the street. He's not. So I'm doing this because it's my duty to do this. I have to conduct myself in such a manner and teach martial arts right. And if that's holding to tradition of it, then that's what I'm doing. I feel, you know. Okay, I went all over the world. Let's go.
Yeah,
Napo.
Napo, please, before we go to the next part.
No. That he hit the nail on the head right there. It just depends on who you talk to, which is and you know, I think that's why there's such a great importance of having, you know, the right people leading you. You know, I can only imagine some of Master Nathan's, you know, his faithful students, you know, how they look up to you, you know, and how you've helped them find their path. You know, I think back like my Master Choi, my first teacher at Taekwondo, you know, how I admired, you know, the Bushido way that he carried along with. You know, that's where I first learned about the whole bow and stepping on the mat and respecting your training partner, you know, and having respect for your opponent despite, you know, your combat, you know. Shouts to my first jiu-jitsu teacher, Magno Gama. You know, from there, you know, Igor Gracie, Gregor Gracie, Daniel Gracie, and Doug Pelengovich were my jiu-jitsu teachers up until my present jiu-jitsu teacher today, my head professor, Igor Andrade. You know, this dude is, you know, he's a badass in and of himself. You know, he's a, you know, we ourselves call him Papa Smurf, Mr. Miyagi, Master Splinter, because here he is at 65 years of age, you know, full hair, white beard, and he's still doing his thing, you know, like, these are people that make a difference, you know, teaching the right way, leading in the right way, you know, a man who who shares his vulnerabilities, you know, a man who teaches with passion, you know, and I look up to him. You know, I look at him, I'm like, man, that's what I want to be like when, you know, when as I progress in my journey, you know. You know, back to what Master Nathan was saying, it really depends on who you speak to, you know, and you know, and maybe that's what differentiates things when you look at people that or those leaders that hold on to those traditional values, you know, which is why at our dojo you'll see pictures of the pioneers, you know, the original Japanese jiu-jitsu leader. There's a picture of him on the wall, along with the two Gracie brothers, Elio and Carlos Gracie, who molded jiu-jitsu and turned it into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you know, and then Carlos Gracie Jr., the founder of Gracie Baja, you know, the team that I represent. You know, we hold on to these traditional values, you know, and we exercise them, you know, at our dojo. You know, you step on the mat, you know, you remove the gum from your mouth, like Master Nathan was saying. You know, you respect your training partner, you know, and so on and so forth. But anyway, yeah, before I get lost again.
Yeah, not to cut you off, but I think we might have some footage, right? Go into some footage to show what the jiu-jitsu looks like.
Yes, that'd be dope. Let's get to that.
Okay.
Let me pull it up. And then right after that, I want to get to a question in the chat. Right after that.
And so before we do that, let me just say my Kai, I know you love these unlocked levels, right? So this is the connection that I had. Grandmaster Nathan, please forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn. Hold on, I don't want to.
No,
so
I just got it up.
Nate, I feel we all know The Last Dragon.
Yes, Tom.
Right? Right.
Yes.
We all know Bruce Leroy.
Yeah.
So look at that.
Bruce Leroy was your sparring partner?
Yes. He was my sparring partner.
Yo,
yeah.
We in a time machine right now, man.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Relax, man.
But
we did a movie together.
He's the master.
Maybe I'm okay. Maybe I'm sewing two clothes together that probably don't, right? But Wild Style was made with the creation of Deadly Art of Survival, and it's funny because in the Deadly Art of Survival, the intro, you hear the hip hop influence, right? In the intro,
right?
I feel The Last Dragon was able to be created based off of the Deadly Art of Survival. And I may be bugging out, but I'm just saying, like, and then you saying that was a sparring partner too. And I just kind of feel like your story when it was put out, I kind of feel like that gave the open window or even the open door to be able to create another black man who was able to make a movie off of the arts.
Right.
Do you, without saying too much, do you possibly agree with me?
As far as making another movie?
As far as I feel like The Last Dragon might have been possible because of your movie.
No. I'm humbly disagree.
Okay.
I time off. All props due to him. He's actually better than what he is in that movie. He's a incredible. A lot of people don't know he's undefeated as a kickboxer. I think he's like 7-0 or 8-0 as a kickboxer, and he was a phenomenal point fighter. He got me ready for 2 fights. I think. We met when he was a purple belt in 1981. He studied under Ron Van Cleef. I was a bouncer at a club called Barnes International Disco. He was the doorman with me, and we would just laugh and joke, and he wouldn't have any money to get home, and I would lend him 75 cents to take the train. And then he kept training. And one day I was doing a movie called American Born Chinese with Don Micaiah Wilson. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's a phenomenal kickboxer, boxer. Napo, you might have heard of Don Wilson, Don the Dragon Wilson. Anyway, we were doing a movie together at the time called American Born Chinese. It was actually the same year as whole bank robbery thing. Anyway, that's how I met Time Off. Come a couple of months later, maybe the end of 82, he tells me, listen, I'm going to be away for a while. I'm auditioning for a movie. Hope I get the part. And the movie happened to be The Last Dragon. And when I heard about it,
wow.
When he said, listen, after I do the movie, I want you to be my bodyguard. So we were such good friends. He used to babysit my kid. He would hang out with my daughters. He would come to my dojo, train. He actually fought at a tournament I gave. He fought. I got pictures of it actually. And he fought my nephew for the championship. And he put my nephew in the hospital, kicked him in his lower ribs, put him in the hospital. And so Time Mark and I go back. We go back. Yeah.
History.
Okay,
lesson.
so maybe I was reaching with that one. I just kind of, I connected the stars in a different manner.
I'm not going to take any prop I don't deserve.
I respect that. I respect that.
If he was the prototype for a hip hop movie about graffiti artists, it made sense that I was the prototype for a martial arts movie with a black dude doing martial arts. Like,
yeah.
But
I can't. I don't want to.
We've answered that. We got an even better answer. Wow, you was his bodyguard.
Yeah.
You was his babysitter. He boxed your nephew. Like, y'all was like. It's good to know that these things, these energies, was attractive. People that, because you know what, we never would have heard on another interview. We never would have heard a man of color telling another man of color, you know, that dude that y'all think is dope, but then y'all might think, okay, well, he's a pop star in real life. Is he really like that? He's solid in real life. You get what I'm saying? And that's something we don't get a chance to hear. So thank you for expressing that and letting us hear that side of it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
SoundMinds to that. SoundMinds to that.
That kind of really alley-oop to the next question from the chat, though. And that comes from Carlos. Carlos, wants another great story from the master. He said it's a question I've been dying to know since a teen. There was a lot of rumors about Nathan and I don't know how to say that. Kahiji
Kahiji Pantera.
Kahiji, yep.
So
the late Kahiji Pantera.
So did you spar with him, train together? Did you have a good relationship?
Wow. Kahiji Pantera, one of the most phenomenal fighters that ever lived. And I'm not just saying that because he was a friend of mine. He was a sparring partner. And ultimately, we fought in 1980, I believe, 1982. We fought, I think, 9 rounds or 8 rounds.
Bare knuckle?
No, this is when the gloves. This is when this is when the gloves came in. And he was phenomenal, incredible condition. He was from Brooklyn, but he trained on Madison Street, Henry Street, the Henry Street settlement. Then he went over to Rutgers. Incredible human being.
Shout out to Henry Street. Shout out to Rutgers.
Yeah. He teaches he taught the Black Cipher system. I miss him so much. He passed away. I spoke at his memorial service. Yes, I have a matter of fact, I should have sent you the picture. I will send you the picture of me and his fight. I believe it was in 82. That was my last kickboxing fight.
Wow.
Fight him. We fought to a draw. He actually beat me and they gave it a draw. He actually beat me and they gave it a draw. I thought he beat me, and I told people, people had their opinion about it, but I thought he beat me. But we were good friends. We were sparring partners before that. We sparred hundreds of rounds prior to fighting. We knew each other since 1974. Wow. And I fought on the same card as him. The American Karate Championship, East Coast Karate Championship, Martial Arts Championship. We fought on a lot of cards together, but we never fought each other because we were sparring partners. And what happened was we got a deal and they said, listen, everybody wants to see you guys fight. I was okay with it. He wasn't okay with it. I felt bad after I fought him. We both wind up in the hospital after that. And that's it. That's history. But he was an incredible human being. Incredible martial artist.
Was he a part of the Black Panthers?
He was not a part of the Black Panthers. His instructor, Jamal Joseph, who was one of the 21 Panthers on the 21 Panther case. He was the youngest Black Panther. He was my sparring partner before.
SoundMinds. Wow.
So that's where the rumors come in, where you fought the Black Panthers.
Right.
No.
Okay.
Right. And you know, on the cusp of, on the cusp of Friday, Fred Hampton's movie is dropping.
Yes.
To hear this history is phenomenal for the brain to even grasp. Right. It's just crazy.
What a story.
Damn.
Well, let me tell you guys this. When I met Jamal, he invited me to his dojo. This might have been in 73. Mm-hmm. I went to his dojo in Brooklyn, and a guy walks in, and we're training, and he says he wants to see you fight. And I said, he who? He said, the gentleman at the door. He's my friend. You might have heard of him. I said, what's his name? He said, Huey Newton. And he said, yeah. And he
where's
says,
the popcorn, man? I should have made popcorn.
He said he wants to see me.
Can we just have y'all be our guests every week from now on? I don't think we need any guests. We could just make this
let Master Nathan
movie.
take
we could make this a movie.
Yeah,
Huey Newton requested you to fight.
He requested me to spar with Jamal Joseph. I'm gonna tell you a story about that too. When we talk about the bank robbery, what ended me and Jamal's friendship. And it was because of the bank robbery, because I don't know if you guys know, it's no secret. He wound up being one of the Black Liberation Army members. And when I stopped the bank robbery, he actually didn't like it. And
see, this was a point in time, just for listeners, where there was a lot of splintering happening, right? So there was like the Weathermen, there was the BLA, there was the Black Panthers. And I think these days, a lot of people look back in that and they just think, oh, it was Black people against the KKK, but it wasn't really like that. So what you kind of, just for people who don't get it, like there were a lot of people who were trying to deal with this horrible state of white supremacy, but there were different ways. And the more time went on and the more politics got involved, the more some serious fallouts. And it's unfortunate, but we have to go back and really look at this. There was pain being put in by some of us against our own just because of these fallouts. There was definitely different groups, like whole different organizations. Not every Panther, a SNCC member, or SCLC, was thinking the same and doing the same. And we send love and respect to all of them, because they were not dysfunctional people. They were activists trying to do something in a dysfunctional state of living.
And where you're going with it, I think you really should just really go right into the bank robbery situation, because we're at that point where, this is where you say, you also mentioned how you had to pull back anyways. You had to fall back. You had to go, quiet for a minute, and I think it ties into that, what was going on, but first we got to know, how the heck you out there stopping bank robbers though? Like, we need to know that story, like barehanded with, the story is incredible. So, break that down, like from the beginning. I mean, of just standing at the teller,
Yeah. I was doing a bank drop off for my job. I was a manager at a liquor store, assistant manager at a liquor store. And every day we would drop off the money in the bank from the night before. And that day it was my turn to drop off the money. So when I would do it, I met this young lady at the bank. Her name was Carmen Feliciano. That was her real name, because that's my kid's cousin's name. So it's not your cousin's, if my children are watching. Her name was Carmen Feliciano. And she was a very nice, very petite young lady, very sweet. And so every day I would say hi and we would flirt with each other. So this one particular day I came into the bank, and when I got online, she asked me to get off of line. And because she wanted me to stand aside so we can talk, afterward when it got slow. Because the busy time was usually when it opened up at 9 o'clock, and then it would slow down like 9:30. And while I'm there, I see a guy in the bank with a hoodie on. And I said to myself, wow, this guy's in a bank with a hood on, it don't look right. But I didn't think nothing of it. Make a short story shorter, he walks over to her, and he hands a bag. He slams a bag on the counter. And at the time, if you remember, the banks didn't have the glass partitions and stuff. This was in 81. And it had the glass partition, but not the ones where it covered up the whole thing. It was a big hole, and then you could put the money there. And he handed the bag, and on the other side of the bag, which I couldn't see, was a note telling her to hand him some money. And I seen her looking at the bag, and I said, why is she looking at the bag, staring at the bag? I didn't know she was reading the note. So she read the note, and you could see her start to shake. So I said, what's going on? I still didn't realize what was going on. And then he said, listen, you called it a B word and said, just put the money in. He had to raise his voice because she was nervous. She was in shock. And she didn't count any money. That's when I knew what was going on. She didn't count the money, and she grabbed a handful and just started stuffing it in the bag. And he kept cursing at her because she wasn't moving fast enough. And I turned around, I looked behind me, and the door was next to me. So I said, well, he's not going to go out this way. And sure enough, he tried to come out where I was standing, and wasn't a good move. It wasn't a good move.
What's the move? What's the move you did? Yeah, hold up.
I don't want to exaggerate. It was bad for him. It was bad. And I laid him out, and I wasn't used to what happened. The cops ran in, thought I was, because I was on top of him, they thought I was the bank robber. They hit me in the head with the gun. Said they was going to blow my brains out, and the people were screaming, no, it's not him, the guy on the floor. And then I shoved the cop because I was so angry because he could have killed me. And then it just so happened,
thank you,
Mayor Koch happened to be doing a radio broadcast upstairs in the same building, ironically. And he came down, he heard about it because all the helicopters outside and the people running in the street and screaming that the bank was being robbed. And then he came down, he congratulated me. That's the picture I think I sent you guys. And he congratulated me. And it was like, back then it was no YouTube, there was no Facebook. So everything was word of mouth. But I'd never seen so many people come outside at one time. And when I walked outside the bank, it was like a ticker tape parade. It was ridiculous. And it was all over the world news and this, and everybody wanted to interview me. And I got a call a couple of days later from my mom saying that, is everybody still there?
Yes, we're still.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Saying that please come home, that they're getting phone calls that they want to kill my family, kill me. And so I had to make the decision to go underground. And I didn't want no interviews no more, no newspapers, I got offered all kind of deals. I didn't want to do it. My family came first, so I gave it all up. So I didn't do any interviews for years, for maybe 20 years, the next 20 years. I refused any magazines, any newspaper, anything, just to make sure my family was protected.
But you still were teaching.
I was still teaching. Teaching. Yeah.
Wow.
So you went from samurai to ninja.
And what happened with Joseph, I was at a tournament as a special guest one day, and I went reluctantly, and he was there. And when I went to shake his hand, he refused to shake my hand. And that's when I was told what was happening, that, they wasn't happy with what I did.
Now, even though it was a bad form, the article says you hit him with a forearm to the gut.
No. I hit him with a forearm to the upper chest, and then I swept his feet from under him.
Nice.
He hit the ground, and then I stomped him. That was it.
True master, spoken like a true master.
See how the media always trying to glorify things, man.
Yeah.
Listen, That's an incredible story.
and
Hear it from the
to tell you
source.
the truth, it wasn't
person drop.
it wasn't a heroic thing that I did, not at all. It was instinctive. I really did it for her. I didn't do it, trying to be a hero or none of like the paper said no.
I mean, I feel like that's what heroic is.
But the papers even says that too. The paper says you said that you didn't do it to be a hero, and you don't want to be looked at as a hero. But people, that's what people see. And that was a heroic, action that you took, and that moment was a heroic moment. So yes, technically you are a hero, brother. Technically.
Back into what I want to ask Napo and have you answer Nathan on. This is my personal last question, but it kind of ties into a whole line I was going at with the Eminem and how you could be from without a culture, find something that speaks to you, sometimes more than what's on your own block or your neighborhood, and represent that culture and bring it back to your community, right? So sometimes it's about taking what's in your community and continuing a legacy. Sometimes it's saying, maybe my community is missing something. Let me go, if I could honor someone else's and bring that back to my culture. And I feel like both of y'all brothers have done that. And I love that y'all have both studied different styles. And yet, even though both of y'all have studied different styles, y'all both have studied different styles, which shows you there's so much variation in the martial arts, as in hip hop, as in culture. So I feel like there's sometimes today we catch ourselves, hoping that hip hop artists today don't lose the legacy of hip hop back then and what we came through and having a platform and speaking for your neighborhood and your people, right? But sometimes we just be too paranoid, right? So we just like, oh, these young people, they can't rap. And sometimes it's just like, no, they're just younger and they might do things differently. That doesn't mean they're disrespecting the culture just because they're doing it differently. Master Nathan, I'm going to go to Napo first on this because we know you went underground. And for people who don't know, like Chinatown, regular police don't even go in there. You know what I mean? Shout out to the Flying Dragons and the Ghost Shadows and everybody. Like, it's real in Chinatown. So I hope you'll touch on that for your part of the question. But for Napo, it's like, what did you do that you knew wasn't doing before you, that you knew like you were different, right? Because Brazilian jiu-jitsu in itself is not the previous jiu-jitsu. And then you coming with Baja Jiu-Jitsu and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you coming with Napo as Napo, right? What things do you do that you felt like the elders might have been like, oh, he's different, or you might have said, I'm gonna do this different, but not because I'm disrespecting the culture, just because I'm adding on to the culture. Does that make sense?
As far as like, let me just see if I can understand the question. As far as my role in jiu-jitsu, student-wise, teaching-wise, I'm just trying to understand the question.
Say like on your path before you got to where you are now, right?
Okay.
When you was a young man on the path, first of all, you went looking for people that wasn't even your neighborhood, right? You like, I'm gonna find them. What were some of the things you did that was out of what a traditional person might have done, right? Because they might have just went down the block. Look, I'm in this neighborhood. This is my master. I study this way. You didn't do that. We know. You how did you do something that, even though you didn't go to your neighborhood and to whatever your local master was, you were still respecting the origin, that you would encourage someone else who might not have that local master or be from Japan or Chinatown, that they could get some inspiration from you and say, I'm still respecting the culture, even though I'm following a different path?
I mean, first, that's a real good question. Looking back, I think, and I hope I can answer this. I'll be as transparent as I can be. Is that I spoke very little. Period. On my journey, like I said, even when you're younger, you're still trying to find your identity in something. You know what I mean? And you're dealing, like I said, with just, I look back even when I was in high school, dealing with anxieties, insecurities, fear of the unknown, and so on and so forth. I spoke very little about these desires that all these curiosities that I had, you know, to continue my journey in martial arts. You know, I shared it with very few people. You know, I think it might have been, I could probably count it on a hand, in one hand, and still have a few fingers left over. How many people I might have told, you know? But in doing so, you know, and as I kind of embarked or continued on that journey, you know, after, you know, several years of a gap in between, you know, my Taekwondo years, or, you know, when I was curious about, you know, wrestling style and so on and so forth. It's, I guess, you know, understanding or trying to understand and being open to understanding the evolution of kind of like what we touched on earlier, you know, the evolution of the world. I mean, you know, time goes on, you know, the world continues. And, you know, and I get it, as the world evolves, you have to kind of adapt and adjust sometimes, you know. But that doesn't mean you have to, you know, lose touch with these anchors that have grounded you, you know,
Right.
from way back, you know, while you evolve, you know, and it could be, you know, just part of your character, you know, what was taught to you at home, you know, and so on and so forth. You know, I think even if I tried, and I'm thankful for this, you know, but I think even if I tried to, and I have, you know, throughout my younger years, you know, because you try to keep up with the Joneses, you know, you try to like, well, you know, yeah, I guess I got to do this and I got to do that to kind of fit in, you know, certain things just always pulled me back, you know. So what I thought would always made me odd, you know, or the oddball, you know, awkward and, you know, easy to pick on, and you know, a target, or, you know, a target for bullies, you know, I look back on it and I'm thankful for, because there's things that just kind of just didn't change who I was deep within, you know, even though I didn't quite understand it back then. But I look at it now and I'm like, you know, I'm thankful that, you know, they would, you know, there was something distinctive about me, the same way there would be something distinctive about him and her, and him and her, and so on and so forth. So I think just those anchors from the traditional side, you know, that I just kind of kept with me, you know, and I bring that with me onto the new school, you know, and I'm in understanding the evolution of the world, you know, and how the, you know, the art in and of itself, just there's always going to be something added to it. There's always a counter to this and a counter to that, and a defense for this and an offense for that, and you know, so it's like a continual puzzle, like I often say, you know what I mean? You're gonna keep, you know, there's gonna be a lot of pieces, it's just not matching, then you're gonna find that piece again that clicks. Boom. All right. And that's what keeps me coming back, you know, to continue to add pieces to that jigsaw puzzle called life. You know, I hope I make sense.
It does. It does. It seems like sometimes it's not even what you're trying to do different. It's just that you're a different person and you're trying to stick to the script, and you just gotta let people see, let the elders see through the test of time. Hey, I can't be you. I'm
Mm.
following the code. I'm following Bushido in my body and my time and my age. It just looks different because I'm not you. Nathan, what can you say? You was in the underground tournaments. You know, you was doing things a little bit different. You wasn't necessarily taking a path that you tell one of your students to take. Sometimes doing it for legal reasons. Sometimes because you wouldn't say, "Go stop a bank robber." You know what I mean? Or be the first person to be in the movie and inspire Ahern. You know, you did some different things. What can you say? Were you being a revolutionary to the martial arts, or were you following Bushido in a different way, or a little bit of both?
Ooh, probably if I had to I want to keep it totally real, man. If I sound sometimes like I'm stuttering, I want to make sure that I'm very transparent with the audience, with everybody, without, you know, trying to make everybody, oh, he did this. No, you know, it's God just protected me, placed me in the right place, you know, and he guided me throughout my whole life. Wasn't for him, I wouldn't be anything. I just want to say that. But there was the only path that I could really say that really I chose, if I have to say, I always wanted to train kids. And I always wanted to be an inspiration to kids. I always wanted to be an inspiration to people in general. I felt it was always my dream. I know a lot of people don't know this. It was always my dream to teach in Chinatown because I wanted to bridge the gap. I didn't want to be looked at as this guy, just another black guy selling drugs. And I know it sounds real cliche, but I didn't want to be at that black guy selling drugs, that black guy wearing his pants down his ankles. Well, we didn't do that back then. But, I didn't want to be that stereotypical guy, man. I just wanted to be Nathan Ingram. And I wanted to be a Nathan Ingram that could be somebody in his community that the kids can look up to, the community can look up to. And at many times I failed at that. None of us are perfect. I made bad decisions. I did things that may not have been right. But my heart was always in the right place. And I felt that Chinatown would be different. Not just teaching martial arts. I said, I want to teach in Chinatown. This was literally, as God is my witness, and I wouldn't use his name lightly. This was my goal. I wanted to do that, and God blessed me. So, and I mean that so humbly, and I don't want you guys to get the slightest inclination of being arrogant on that. That was what I had set out in my life to do, and God blessed me to do that. Thousands of students later, and that's not bragging. Literally, I could say that was God's doing, not mine. He guided me the whole way. If I would have probably did it on my own, I would have messed it up. But I would pray and ask God, listen, God, please, just give me my heart desire. And I was obedient for the most part in his will. And the rest is history.
That's deep. That's deep. And I think that's one of the themes that throughout this podcast and all our episodes, we kind of feel like a lot of times things are chosen for you without you even understanding what you're choosing for yourself. You know what I mean? So, and then it seems like that's what you're saying. And that's a beautiful thing to kind of blindly have that faith and let it lead where it leads. And to find out that within that pathway ends up being greatness. You know what I mean? So we are coming close to the 2-hour mark. I mean, for the most part, we would let's see that footage of Professor Napo doing his thing. And let's wrap up. Let's see my man handle his justice.
Don't blink, you'll miss it.
Keep my arms tight here, not exposed when he can start attacking them, and slightly elevate like a miniature tripod, just to get my knee out. Once I get that, slide that knee out, right into knee on belly. Immediately, he comes in for the underhook. That's fine. He's doing what he's supposed to do. My knee's keeping him in position. I'm gonna go right for my wizard. Don't be shy. The more of my fingers I see, the better. I may use my other arm to assist, get it deeper. Now in that one motion, we'll do 3 things. Drop the knee here, unify my right arm, and bring my left arm with me. 3 things in one. I end up here. Last, I can squeeze and compress here, or just start walking towards him. Get your finish.
Oh my God. My son would definitely really appreciate that because he's in wrestling and that grappling right now is definitely where it's at. So man, you doing it, man. You are doing it.
Y'all saw that tap out, right? He
tapped out twice.
A couple of times.
They got the point.
I got it. They got it.
And you know what's crazy? What's wild about it is the watching that video, right? Real brief as it is, and knowing Grandmaster Nate's story, knowing Professor Napo's story, it's the physical chess. It's the mental of, I'm gonna get you on this move, but just in case you try to counteract with, counter-react with your pawn or your bishop, here's my rook to take you. And those are those knees. And the way you just broke down that whole little video of your knee being here and it's going to end up here, and watch me end up. And just to see that physically take place is an amazing description of what chess is. You know what I'm saying? Always thinking 2 heads, 3 moves ahead. Phenomenal, man. You gentlemen are, thank you Thank you for everybody that you taught.
Thank you.
Thank you for everybody that you're teaching. Thank you for everybody that you have touched, even if it's not even with martial arts, just being able to give a description or a model of what a stand-up dude looks like, a stand-up man looks like. And I appreciate y'all so much. I salute y'all 1,000%.
Thank you.
It was a
Thank you for
movie.
having me.
I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate that.
It's a lot of shoe for me to fill, but thank you, man. I appreciate y'all.
Very much.
Yeah, this was just the iceberg, man. Amazing.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you, everybody. Master Nathan, man, I hope I have the honor of meeting you one day face to face. It would enrich and enhance my martial arts journey. Gentlemen and hosts, I appreciate you guys, man. I hope I get to meet you guys one day too in the physical, man, and we could chop it up like that. George, you know I love you, man. You've always
love you too, brother.
Dude, man. Appreciate
love you too.
Can you let all of the followers know and listeners know where can they find you
and
on
books,
social media
anything
platform,
that y'all got out there, anything that you got out there. Here's your moment, y'all.
Ernesto Gomez Napo 8, that's our Instagram. Ernesto Napo Gomez at Facebook, and my dojo that I represent is Gracie Baja Kissimmee. We're on Instagram. That's my head professor Igor Andrade, who is the man. This dude is our master splinter. So, you know, you can find us there, man. You got anybody ever in town, feel free to come through, send up a message, we'll come through, visit, you know, come train with us.
Dope.
Well, my school, most people know it's at 225 Park Row in Chinatown. The only karate school there, so you can't miss it. 2 big lions outside. Also, my book. If you want to know the true story, get the book, The Deadly Art of Survival: The Life and Times of a Warrior. It's on Amazon. Good read. It tells you the true story, my true life story. The movie does not tell the true story. There's a lot of lies in the movies, a lot of things that they said I did that I didn't do. And the book will tell you the real story. I was never a hero. I was just blessed by God to come down and teach kids a better art, a different art. So please get the book. You know, if you want, you can email me at daskarate 1968 at gmail.com, or visit me at my school, 225 Park Road, Chinatown, New York. Dope. And I'm on Zoom.
There you go. There you go. There we have it, man. This was a great conversation here on the SoundMinds podcast. Man, masters of discipline. We went through multiple levels of discipline in this one. I mean, I really hope all of our audience really get to take their time and pick through what resonates with them and help them grow and become more disciplined.
Yes. And also whoever's watching, whoever was, for the most part, came with our guests to watch our guests, share, subscribe, like, you know what I mean? Definitely, for the most part, share this with your people. I always say, tell a friend to tell 10, because these are gems that we're not going to get just anywhere. You know what I mean? The Huey P. Newton, the bank robbery, the story, the hip hop, the Professor Napo teaching over here from the Lower East Side, going to Florida, and now teaching out there and teaching the young how to be proper when we living in an era where that's so downplayed. So these are stories that you want to share with not only yours and your family, but also, you know, check through all the other episodes, because this is what SoundMinds podcast is about. And we thank y'all for joining us. If you did live on the Super Bowl Sunday, or if you check us on the YouTube on the replay, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your presence.
You don't want to miss these gems. See y'all next Sunday.
Lower East Side. Gracie Baja.
Take
care.
SoundMinds.